Welcome back, everyone, to the Damage Counter YouTube channel. And we've got a special video for you here today. We've got some tabletop action going on. If you were listening to the podcast episode that went live today, we talked about in the episode how we were going to do a tabletop match between me and Josh in the X and Y format. And yeah, that's exactly what we have here for you. So on my side of the table on the left, I'll be piloting my M Audino EX deck that we broke down on today's podcast episode. Check it out if you haven't already. Josh, what do you have on your side of the table?
I forget the technical name for it, but it's like a Gardevoir dragon deck, basically.
It's kind of like a fairy box type thing.
Yeah.
It's got like the Xerneas Break, the Mega Gardevoirs, and a bunch of dragon Pokemon. Sounds like a binder drop, but it works together very well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, so as we're shuffling up here, we did have the turn-deciding dice roll. I managed to flip heads on that, so I will be going first in this first game. So, just gotta wait for us to set up. We did have a practice game that we didn't record before this one.
And we both regretted almost immediately that we didn't record that match.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Brick City from both of us for a couple turns, and it was just like, N versus Seeker, N. It was very funny.
Yeah, it was a really funny match.
Alright, so looks like we're done shuffling up here. We've got the taps, or the cuts rather, those are cuts. Now, one thing we should mention before we get too into the thick of it, this is X and Y format, so the rules are a little bit different. We can play supporters on the first turn of the game. Still can't attack unless you're going second, but, it is an important thing to note, so if you see us play supporter on turn one, that is allowed in this format.
Yeah, I know it's a little weird, I guess, if you're a newer player, but we are using old rules.
Yeah. It's just to kind of keep the game in line with the era that we're trying to emulate here. So starting things off, like I said, I'm going first. I'm looking at my hand. It's not looking too good. Don't really have a whole lot going on in that hand. No supporters, no way to find a Shaman. Starting the Audino EX is really good. That is our main attacker in the deck. It's practically a one-trick pony. But as you can see, I've kind of not got a great hand here, so I throw down the Parallel City to lock Josh's bench to 3 Pokemon, try to keep him slow at the beginning of the game, and follow it up with the Hex Maniac. That way his Pokemon don't have any abilities until the end of his turn. Really, since my hand is so bad, I'm just trying to slow him down at this point.
Yeah, my hand's actually really bad here too, and like Phelan said, this Parallel City it breaks me really hard for quite a while. It's a pretty big struggle. I think I spend most of this turn just trying to get anything going. I don't really get anything online with the max elixir, which sucks, but it happens.
Yeah, especially with your deck, specifically with like the Primal Clash, Mega Gardevoir, and the Xerneas Break. Their attacks deal more damage based on how many Fairy Energy are in play, so getting those extra attachments from the max elixir are really a big deal for your deck, so sometimes missing that can really hurt. Coming back into my turn, I top deck the Audino, and while it's nice to have another benched Pokemon, still not quite what I need here. So I bench the Audino, that way I can build it up later. Versus Seeker, the Hex Maniac back into my hand, and my turn with the Mega Evolution, and we're just kind of back to where we were before. 2-card hand going into Josh's turn, not looking too good for me.
Yeah, I'm still in a really rough spot. My hand's basically energy and useless cards, so I think I just attach for turn and just about pass. Yeah,
you attach for turn and use the I think the life link attack or whatever it is.
Yep, deal 30.
Now, thankfully, I got a little lucky there, and I top-decked Shaman EX, so I was able to use its setup ability to draw until I had 6. Definitely a very good top deck there. Nice to not be in top deck city and taking these small little 30 chip damages here and there. And this is another staple card from the X and Y format, Trainer's Mail. an item card allowing you to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and select any trainer card that isn't Trainer's Mail and add it to your hand. A good way to dig just a little bit deeper for your combo pieces, for your supporters, or whatever. In this case, grabbing me N, which is a supporter we've talked about on the podcast, we love very much.
Good old N.
Good old N. Both players shuffle their hands into their deck and draw cards equal to the number of prize cards that they have. Even after the Shaman, my hand is not particularly great, so I do go ahead and play the N. I don't like playing the N here because you know, Josh has not had great turns, but you know, I'm at a point where he's chipping me away for 30, and I'm in a position where if I can get my double colorless energy, you know, I could really start racking up damage and try to get ahead of the game before he gets anything going. So we're going to see just that. I'll draw until I have 6, so will Josh. Now I'm looking at my hand. We do whiff the double colorless energy, but another great thing about the X and Y format that you should definitely know if you're looking to get into this format is that, yes, I did play Shaman this turn, but unlike things like Crobat, things like the Den GX, I can use a second Shaman on the same turn. Shaman is not limited to, its setup ability is not limited to once per turn, much like Dark Asset or Dead Change. So with the Ultra Ball, I have the out to get another Shaman, go for another setup ability, and hopefully find the card I'm looking for. You'll see that, get the Floatstone out of the hand, thin cards out of the hand so I can draw a little bit more. Shaman's going to come down, setup is going to draw 4 cards. And there you have it, the double colorless energy. There we go, thinning the deck a little bit more with the Trainer's Mail. I think there's an argument to have maybe held that in my hand. That way, you know, you didn't have the knowledge that I have a supporter in my hand for next turn. Make it less likely that you would end my hand or something like that. And then, of course, you know, you have to draw for turn, which means Trainer's Mail is going to get you a little bit deeper into the deck, but either way, I was looking to thin, because I think in the moment I was thinking, I was like, there's definitely, like, more cards that I want that I would like to get closer to, so I just go out of my way to thin the deck. So now with the double colorless energy attached, I can now use Mega Audino's Magical Symphony attack, which deals 110 damage to my opponent's active Pokemon, and if I play a supporter the same turn, I can snipe one of the bench Pokemon for 50. So I'm going to do 110 damage to the active Gardevoir EX, and I'm going to start piling up damage on the Xerneas, as Xerneas' Geomancy attack is Josh's primary way outside of Max Elixir of getting Fairy Energy into play.
Yeah. So, I pretty much, like, spend this whole turn trying to get rid of Parallel City. Like, I have to get a Fairy Garden so I can start playing the game, because I have a big conundrum in this turn. You'll see I have a Shaman in my hand, and I'm going to play Ultra Ball here. Eventually, I think about it for a second. Yeah, I'm going to play Ultra Ball. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Giratina, but because of the Parallel World, I have to decide, like, am I going to play the Shaman and try to draw cards, or am I going to play the Giratina and start trying to set up? And it's a really hard choice for me here, because, man, the Parallel World really keeps me in the ground for a while.
Yeah, the thing is, you know, like we mentioned before, your deck has, like, a lot of different avenues of approach between, like, the Xerneas, the Gardevoirs, and the Dragons, that, like, sometimes, like, you kind of need all the draw you can get, right? Because sometimes your hand gets, like, clumped up with the Dragons or with the other Pokemon that you're, like, not really trying to set up. So having that card draw to find the cards you need for the attackers you're trying to set up is a really big deal. So being limited to just 3 benched Pokemon,
it's really rough.
It's very rough, especially considering that that's a one-sided effect, right? Because Parallel City is a dual-sided stadium. It has different effects depending on which direction you play the card. So while Josh is limited to 3 benched Pokemon, I am not. So it's kind of a difficult thing for him to navigate.
Yeah. So eventually I decided to play the Giratina and start setting up. I felt like that was more important than risking a draw for what only would have been 1 or 2 cards. Cause, I mean, I play a couple copies of Fairy Garden, but it's not very likely I was going to be able to get into it. So I just play the Giratina, attach and pass.
Yeah, so you get another Life Leap attack off there. 30 damage. It's not doing a whole lot, but getting that chip damage
it's
on
damage.
the Mega. Exactly, yeah, it's damage. And I do agree. I think the Giratina was a smart play to just like start getting that into play, as that that single card is a little difficult for my deck to handle. Giratina has the ability Renegade Pulse that prevents all effects of attacks and all damage done to Giratina from Mega Evolution Pokemon. And really, my only attacker in the deck is Mega Audino. I do have, a one-prizer Cobalion in here. I've got M Gardevoir EX in here. But primarily speaking, the strategy revolves entirely around Mega Audino. So having to work around that Giratina is going to be a big problem for me. So we slap down the Professor Sycamore at the beginning of the turn, draw some cards. And again, now that I've played a supporter, Magical Symphony will be dealing an additional 50 damage to Josh's bench Pokemon. So we're going to see just that. Magical Symphony is going to knock out the active Gardevoir EX. And I decided to go with the 50 damage on the Gardevoir on the bench. Try to set it up for a Magical Symphony KO later in the game for 110. And also to keep my prize mapping fairly even, as well. It would be very easy to go after the Xerneas. That would put me at like 3 prize cards left, where most of Josh's Pokemon are 2 prizes, forcing me to take an additional KO to close out the game. So trying to be cognizant of my prize mapping at the same time.
Yeah, so going into my turn, I put up Giratina just for the potential to stall. Since you knocked my Gardevoir EX last turn, I have the space to play Shaman, and that actually gets me into some cards where I can start doing some things here. So I get Fairy Garden down, and this is like my chance to actually start playing the game, really. I break Xerneas just because I can. There's really no reason not to.
Yeah, it gets the card out of your hand, gives Xerneas a little extra HP.
Yeah, so I play another Ultra Ball. I have another Shaman in hand that I do plan on playing. You see me set it down there face up, and then I pull it back real fast. Luckily, Phelan was shuffling his hand, not paying attention.
Yeah, I was looking at my own hand and didn't realize that he had accidentally revealed it. Yeah, that wasn't him benching it. That was him accidentally putting it face up.
So I'm going through here. I go ahead and grab Mega Gardevoir just because I'm really just thin in here with the potential of ending my turn, evolving into that if I have to, just to get extra HP on the Gardevoir EX for the chip damage. That's something I have to stay very conscious of, is all the chip damage Phelan is putting on me here, because none of these Pokemon have near the HP we're used to. So 50 chip damage is very scary in this format. I'm gonna play another Shaman and draw for 5.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart play, right? Because you put up the Giratina, you attach for turn. The Max Elixirs can only accelerate to the bench, right? So you're basically sitting here like, okay, I know that I'm not going to be able to power up Chaos Wheel. This turn is just to wall and try to stall him out. So normally, I feel like players would be inclined to just like play the Ultra Ball and fail so you could draw 6. But knowing that you're not attacking this turn anyway, you might as well guarantee the Gardevoir and end your turn with the Mega Evolution.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was worth it. I whiffed that Trainer Mail, sadly. I only had another Trainer Mail. I got excited for a second, but you can't draw Trainer Mail with Trainer Mail. It's not trekking shoes, sadly.
Yeah.
So, I get a Max Elixir off of the Shaman. And I'm still just trying to get anything going right now. I'm still struggling pretty badly here. The Max Elixir is nice, not very helpful right now. I could start building up that Gardevoir, which isn't bad, because I do have the Mega Evolution in my hand. And if I remember right, I went for the EX, I forget the name of the attack, but where discarding my bench gives me extra damage. Because I was like, alright, Phelan's deck does chip damage. if I build up this Gardevoir, I can at least start taking some of the stuff he's chunking off of my board by myself, trying to save myself some prizes. I don't ever get that going, but that's kind of where my thought process is right now.
Yeah, I think if you had to pick between, because you play both of the Mega Gardevoirs, the one for Primal
I do.
Clash
I
and
run-
from Steam Siege.
Yeah, I run a 2-1, 2 of Despair Ray, and a 1 of copy of the one I just talked about. I'm sorry, I forget the name.
The brilliant arrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, going with the Despair Array to just remove damage Pokemon and do some potential prize denying is definitely a route you can take in this matchup for sure. Especially because that Mega Gardevoir has an awkward HP number for Mega Audino to deal with without support from, I think it's Cursed Eyes Absol.
Yeah. So I did play an in there, and I got Hoopa off that. So I'm playing Hoopa, and at this point, I'm really just thinning. That's pretty much all thin right there, except for the Salamence. I actually wanted that.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to... Sorry.
The dragons are like your best option in this matchup, I feel like, just because everything they do, it counters this deck, right? You have the Giratina that walls Mega Pokemon, and then it's Chaos Wheel attack that prevents me from using special energy stadiums and tools, which is really ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the Salamence as well, that does 50 damage for each EX I have in play. And as you can see, this is a very EX heavy deck.
Yeah. I play very heavily into the dragons in all 3 of these matches. I just they're too good for me not to just full lean onto. The Gardevoirs are really just, if I could get them online, it would be great, but dragons are my number 1 priority right now. So I'm still thinking here, because I am still not in a great spot at all. This is not good for me. Phelan's very scary right now.
Yeah, it was in a. It's kind of a thing where it's like I managed to get set up, and you didn't have the luxury of being able to start Geomancy Xerneas, which again is an important way for your deck to get energy into play. So, like, the momentum is very much in my favor. So I see the Giratina, and I realize that eventually I'm not going to be able to. I'm eventually not going to be able to like start attaching special energy. So I'm really trying to get the basic energies onto my back Mega Audino EX. Managed to come into the Versus Seeker there, so I don't have to swing into the Giratina. I can just Lysander a Shaman EX into active, which is a perfect KO, 110 damage, and then start building up damage on that Gardevoir on the back row there. So things kind of coming together for me there, but now things pass back to you, Josh.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm not too bad. You can see I have Fairy Energy on my hand, so Chaos Wheel is online this turn. That's really good for me, but I need to get some stuff going at the back. I dropped the Salamence. I'm going to start trying to build that as soon as I can. Obviously, I put my attach for turn on the Chaos Wheel. And from here on out, I just need things, if that makes sense. I mean, my hand isn't too bad here, but I don't like it, so I'm going to go ahead and in it away.
And this is actually a very, this is one of the cooler things about X and Y that we love so much, is that N is just such a great card. In the early game, it's a great draw supporter, and in the late game, it's one of the best hand disruptors in the game. So, since I've taken 4 prize cards at this point, Josh is going to be able to draw a fresh hand of 6. I am only going to get 2 cards. I did get lucky and rip the Sycamore off of that, but that definitely could have slowed me down big time.
Yeah, this isn't bad for me here. I get a max elixir. So, like we said, this is one of my easiest ways to accelerate energy. I can pull fairy energy from the discard, or not from the discard, from my deck and attach to my bench, which is great because that means I can potentially get these dragon Pokemon, or even my normal Pokemon, online in one turn. I use it to go all in on the dragons here, like I talked about. So Giratina is up there online with Chaos Wheel. My goal is just try to get Salamence online, which I kind of misplay a little bit here because I don't need to attach this fairy energy to the Salamence. I would have been better off attaching it to the Gardevoir, because I have the, is it called double dragon energy? what's I forget. Yeah, I have double dragon energy in this deck, as you can see from the Giratina. So that's really like a negative energy for me because I don't really plan on using Salamance's second attack at all. It's not a bad option to have, but I don't really need it against Phelan's deck because, like you said, he's very EX heavy.
Yeah, that first attack for a fire and 2 colorless is enough to get you there. So, generally speaking, that's yeah. I mean, you're right, but it is never a bad option to have the 130. But yeah, it's just one of those things. So, like I said, I got the Sycamore off of the end of 2. Never punished, I guess.
Yeah. Phelan is under Chaos Wheel now, so he's a little limited on his options, but he's pretty set up, so it's not really that big of a deal to you anymore.
Yeah, it's, not being able to play stadiums, tools, and special energies can be detrimental. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of Spirit Links in my hand that I can't get rid of, that I would normally start attaching to things like Shaman, even though it had no effect, just to get them out of my hand, but unable to do that under Chaos Wheel. So, also not able to get a Hex Maniac or a Lysander into play either. So I'm forced to just go with the Magical Symphony for 0 damage onto the Giratina, but I still get the snipe for playing a supporter that turn. And, like I said, I'm still just trying to put a whole bunch of damage onto the Gardevoir, try to make it as easy to KO as possible. That way, I'm basically trying to give myself more options for Lysander later in the game. So we're going to see the Versus Seeker on your side. I can see you deliberating. You grab the N off of the Versus Seeker. I can see you deliberating just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really 100% sure what to do right now. I am in a very bad spot. Pretty much, I've already accepted that I lost the game at this point. I'm not gonna lie. I just kept playing it out because, 1, I didn't want to just surrender for the video, and 2, you never know what could happen, I think both me and Phelan have realized that the games with these decks, which are pretty crazy, because all of these matches ended up really close. Even though one of our decks usually just takes the lead, the other deck is still really scary.
Yeah, that was a constant we kept coming around to, and can you really ever count yourself out of the game when you force your opponent into a 2-card hand?
Yeah, like I said, there's still a chance. I attached Spirit Link there to Mega Evolve my Gardevoir just to get that extra HP on there at that point. Phelan's been stacking pretty much all the damage on it, so if I can keep it there a little longer, that's the best I can hope for, because if he manages to take that Gardevoir, he gets game. I'm, like I said, I'm in a really rough spot right now. I'm still thinking.
Yeah, it's just like you said, the damage is really starting to build up on your board, where it's it's hitting a critical mass at this point.
Yeah. I Super Rod there because I plan on dumping this hand soon, and I might as well go ahead and get 3 Fairy Energy back into my deck, especially because it's looking like I might have to try to do something cheeky with the Gardevoir or something, so more energy is a good option to have.
Yeah, it's one of those things I always say is listen, if I'm about to discard my hand to a Sycamore or something like that, then I might as well just play all the recovery cards and stuff. So we are going to see the Chaos Wheel. It is going to get the knockout on the M Audino EX, but the classic end to 2, unfortunately not working out for Josh, did put me into my Lysander, so I could go into the Shaman EX with a Magical Symphony for game.
Yeah, these Shaman EXs are really good cards, but also really rough. That 110 HP means it's pretty much guaranteed that your Shaman EX is going to get one shot if it gets pulled out in this format. Especially with the decks we're playing. They're great helps, but also huge liabilities for us all. Look at my prizes. Look at those fire prizes.
Yeah, your prizes were lit that game, for sure.
So we're going to shuffle up here and be going into game 2. I choose to go first in this game.
Yeah, very much like our current standard format. just getting the momentum and being able to go first is kind of a big deal in this format. It's actually kind of similar to Sword and Shield in a way, right? Because in Sword and Shield, right, you have like the V Maxes, the V Stars, and they're these big beefy stage 1 Pokemon, and it's, you know, typically whoever can get into those first is generally in the better spot. X and Y is quite similar. The only thing kind of, I guess, differentiating is the Mega Evolution rule, that without a Spirit Link attached to the Pokemon that you're Mega Evolving, you do end up ending your turn, which
honestly,
keeps it a little slower to Sword and Shield in a way, but
I do really like the idea of Mega Evolutions ending your turn unless you give up your tool slot for it. I actually think that's pretty cool. I do enjoy it more than...
act.
Yeah, I do kind of enjoy the concept more than Sword and Shields. I don't know what I'm doing there, drawing triangles.
I think we were talking about the last game.
We're going over the last match right now. I think I'm talking about where I messed up once or twice, if I remember right, where I could have done something a little better. It's like Phelan said, both our decks are very momentum heavy, and it's just usually who can ever get going first has a huge lead. But I lost my train of thought.
That's alright, we're about to get into the next game. We see the cuts. We're drawn up to 7. Like you said, you'll be going first this game. Looking at my hand, and I'm not enjoying the fact that my only basic is M Gardevoir EX. A card that is really only in here for specific matchups, with its ability allowing any Pokemon with metal energy attached to be not affected by the effects of my opponent's attacks. Unfortunately, not very useful in this matchup, as your attacks don't have any effects that affect my Pokemon directly. Otherwise making M Gardevoir a dead draw for this matchup.
Yeah. So I drew absolute gas with this hand. I know I only put down the Gardevoir EX, but I actually have a Giratina in hand. I didn't play it immediately because I thought about saving it, because I didn't want to scare Phelan too fast with the fact that I had it. But then I thought about it and it was like, no, I need to get this online as fast as possible. So I do actually end up benching it as soon as my turn starts.
Yeah, as double colorless is just such a big deal in my deck. It's typically like, alright, turn 1, attach an energy, turn 2, attach double colorless, and then it's just, you know, Magical Symphony after Magical Symphony. So, you know, if you're able to establish the Chaos Wheel lock before I can get a double colorless into play, you end up putting me in a very, very rough spot.
Yeah. So, I also drew into a Hoopa. I play the Hoopa, and I go for 2 Shamans, and I believe a Salamence. Yep. I'm leaning all in on the Dragons, and I'm leaning in for pure draw power. I am setting up for the next turn. I'm going to go ahead and play the Salamence. My hand's too big to get any value off the Shamans yet, so I think I might end up... I'm pretty sure I saved both of them here. Just getting ready to thin my hand as much as I can. That's what I'm thinking about right now, so I can get full advantage of those Shamans. I'm in a pretty good spot. I have Giratina and Salamence on my bench, turn 1. This is looking pretty good for me.
Yeah, so coming into my turn, my hand unfortunately is not looking too great. I believe that is an Ultra Ball in the hand there. I'm going to go try to get myself an Audino so I can start powering up one of those. So we're going to see that. Now I do discard the Lysander and the Hex Maniac, as those are my best tools to get around the Giratina. Normally you'd be thinking, well, if they're your best tools, why would you discard them? Well, that's because I'm playing for VS Seeker. So typically my supporters are, and this is typical for a lot of X and Y decks, typically your supporters are better off in the discard pile.
Yep. I do want to say too, part of the reason I was saving those Shamans is because I'm waiting for a parallel world.
Yeah. Josh did a great job baiting me here, as you'll see here in just a second. I do have the Parallel City in hand, and I knowing that at least 2 of his cards are Shaman and his bench is full if I play Parallel City, I go for exactly that. So I go for an extremely greedy play here, put the Parallel City into play and attach the energy to the M Gardevoir to try to take advantage of Gardevoir's metal weakness and get an easy 2 prizes that way. So I go for an extremely greedy play here, but once we slip back over to Josh's turn, you'll see that greedy play did not work out for me, and ends up making a really bad day.
You can see in my hand from the start of the game, I had Fairy Garden, so I was super much waiting for the Parallel City to come out.
So I managed to get a clean research for 7 here, get the Spirit Link onto the Audino, that way I can evolve it without ending my turn later in the game. As you can see, that is 3 double colorless energy in my hand. So here I'm sitting here thinking like, alright, no shot. He gets the Chaos Wheel from 0 energy to 1. So I pass.
This turn is insane as we go through here, you'll see. So Fairy Garden, go ahead, open up my board. I'm going to max Elixir, because I got to get that Giratina online. Get the energy. Obviously, you just want to see my card, so I'm drawing here. I'm going to go for the attach, and I'm about to go all in here. I'm about to go full turbo. Right now, I'm just trying to get my hand down so I can get max cards off these Shamans.
Yeah, and it was, it came over to your turn, you slam the Fairy Garden, you slam the Elixir, and I see the attachment, and I'm like, this is where I start thinking, especially after that, I'm like, oh god.
Yep, I had the Double Dragon in hand. I was very scared last turn of an in. Luckily, Phelan did not play it, because it lets me just go off here. So I have the second Giratina down too, that's very scary for Phelan. I decided at this point that I didn't really need to play both Shamans, so I went ahead and figured I'd start setting up backup threats since I'm almost online. I get the Spirit Link, get my Gardevoir Mega Evolved, just because thinning cards. So, I'm thinking here, I'm about to drop my whole hand with a Sycamore. I had some good cards, but turn 2 Chaos Wheel is way too tempting. You'll see the max elixirs coming in my hand. That me raising my hand there is telling Phelan that this was meant to happen.
This is going to happen, yep. And the first card he rips off of the max elixir is the Fairy Energy. So we officially have Chaos Wheel online from 0 energy to 4 in 1 turn.
Yep. So I attach Chaos Wheel is online. At this point, I am pretty much set. I've already shifted my mindset from getting online to setting up backup attackers, because I am about to just try to lock down the whole board here. Getting Chaos Wheel off turn 2 is insanely powerful for me, because look at all those double colorless in Phelan's hand. He's not going to be able to play any of them.
Yeah, and this is where my greedy play from earlier just severely punished me, right? Because, theoretically speaking, going attach, and then Fleur can... I don't actually know the name of the attack, but using Magearna's attack to get 2 prizes easy off of 1 attack on the M Audino EX is really powerful. But, because I didn't commit the energy to the Audino on the first turn of the game, I am now it is now basically impossible for me to have a response to the upcoming Chaos Wheel.
Yep.
Now I would need to attach a basic energy, discard 2 basic energy, and play 2 Mega Turbo in the same turn just to have a shot. And with my deck construction, unfortunately, it's just not statistically possible.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I drew 3 max elixir there, and luckily I hit all 3. That was actually insane. I'm surprised I didn't whiff one of those. But I'm in a really good spot now because I have a Giratina in the active, completely online. One that's pretty much set up whenever I want it to be now when I get another Double Dragon energy. That's very scary for Phelan, especially because he can't even start chipping away at that one on the bench with the chip damage because of the effect. So, at this point, I'm pretty much completely set for my side of the board.
Yeah, at this point, like, the game, I'm seriously looking at my hand like, bro, like, is there anything I can do? Like, surely, I'm just trying to think over all the options in my head. I'm thinking about, okay, well, I've got a 1 prize attacker in Cobalion. Maybe I can do that, or maybe I can try to hide behind another Pokemon, since Chaos Wheels, you know, while its effect is insane, it only deals 100 damage, so you can theoretically just let it build up some damage on your board while you try to establish something. So I'm trying to think of ways that I can get myself out of this position. The idea of playing Research did cross my mind, but I don't like the fact that I'd be pitching 3 double colorless energy. So I think ultimately I decide against that. So Ultra Ball 1 away and a Startling Megaphone, which at this point isn't really doing me any good. You've already evolved to your Mega Gardevoir, so getting rid of the Spirit Link doesn't do me any good. And since you have Fairy Garden, I don't have to worry about Float Stones or anything like that. So Ultra Ball those cards away for the Hoopa EX. Use the Scoundrel Ring ability to get me a Mega Audino EX, and a Shaman EX to try to see if I can get myself out of this position. We're going to see the Mega Evolution thanks to the Spirit Link, my turn 1. And we benched the Audino EX. At this point, I'm just sitting here looking at myself like, okay, I've got to get around Renegade Pulse, I've got to get around Chaos Wheel, but I also have to be careful of that Salamence in the back, and for every EX I bench, it's just building its damage cap. But I got to draw some cards here, so we go for a setup for 2. Try to see if I can pull a better supporter, try to maybe Lysander, the Hoopa active. That way I can stall Josh out for a turn. Unfortunately, not getting that kind of lucky. Looking over my hand here. I think I'm thinking about the N that I know is in my hand. Like I said, I'm in a very bad spot, so I have to think very carefully about what I do here. I think ultimately I decide to end to get the double colorless energies. You know, yeah. My hand is kind of gummed up, and I just wanted all of it, kind of a refresh. So I'd have very much preferred to save that for when Josh took the knockout on the Magearna, but I kind of need a better hand to try to set myself up for the next turn.
Yeah, I was a little upset with that because I had some good cards in hand. I had a Double Dragon Energy in hand, but I honestly wasn't that worried about that in. I actually was kind of happy about it. It gave me some more options here.
Yeah, so the end, not really putting me into much of anything, just a bunch of supporters and energy cards. And at this point, I just kind of have to look at my hand and just say, you know what? The Magearna's going down. I can't do anything about it. You know, I could retreat. I do have enough energy to retreat, but I don't think it's really worth it because then I just have to have the same. I need to get out of the active problem next turn with no way to attach Float Stone. So I just accept that the Magearna is going down. I put that Spirit Link back into my hand because I realized I wasn't supposed to play it with the effect of Chaos Wheel. So just kind of undoing that mistake there. Just passing the turn over to Josh, just saying, listen, you can have the steel doll. I can't really do anything about it. And just gotta hope that I find a Mega Turbo later in the turn to maybe start getting that Audino into play, even under Chaos Wheel. Going into Josh's turn, the first thing you do...
Sorry, my mic was muted, I'm sorry.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah, I was going to say, going into my turn, I didn't really have anything in my hand but energies and a VS Seeker. So I just went ahead, VS Seekered for a Sycamore in my discard, because at this point, I just want cards, I want options. I'm pretty safe. So I went ahead and Sycamored for a new 7, got a Trainer's Mail, grabbed Switch. Switch is a never bad option to have in your hand, you know. Phelan could Lysander me or something, and that gives me an out when I get back to my turn. And I just Chaos Wheel and pass, because like I said, I'm not really, don't really need anything right now.
Yeah, you take an easy 2 prize cards there. And like you said, you know, at this stage of the game, you're pretty set up. You're just trying to find those last few copies of Double Dragon Energy and thinning your deck.
Yep.
That way you can find your Lysanders a little easier.
I do attach a Fairy Energy to the Salamence to start setting up double threats. So that was a decision I made because of the chip damage Phelan could do.
Yeah, which is, always a good option to try to overwhelm me with an onslaught of attackers. I do get extremely lucky off of the Trainer's Mail and find the Mega Turbo. Fun fact, the second copy of Mega Turbo is prized. So that was incredibly lucky that I managed to pull that one. So that's the basic energy from my discard pile going on to the Mega Audino. And then I do have another basic energy in hand. So we go ahead and attach that. That way Magical Symphony is ready to go this turn. Now the only problem is getting around the Giratina EX. That way I can deal some meaningful damage. Thankfully, I do have the Hex Maniac in my hand. I can play that and turn off all of the abilities for each Pokemon in play, both mine and Josh's. That way I am able to hit the Giratina EX even through its Renegade Pulse ability.
Yeah, Hex Maniac is very scary for me. This isn't great for me, but I'm not too upset about this. It's okay. It's very hard to one-shot in this format, so you can afford to take some trades and take some hits. Since Phelan played as Hex Maniac, I know he just has to try to fish for VS Seekers now to do damage. So I'm feeling pretty safe still.
Yeah, and I feel like there was not really a right answer on where to put that 50. I think Salamence, Gardevoir, and Giratina are all great targets to try to help set them up for easier KOs later in the game. I think there's an argument to be said that Giratina was probably the worst target, considering that even on the bench, Renegade Pulse takes effect. So later in the game, that 50 damage probably isn't going to help me too much. But, it is what it is. I put the 50 there. We're moving on. Back over to Josh's turn. Still looking pretty rough for me. I do have the Mega Audino online, but no energy attached to the rest of my Pokemon. Not even a Spirit Link. So, even if I do get energy onto the Audino EX, as long as I'm under Chaos Wheel, I'm basically forced to end my turn just to get the Mega into play. So I'm not feeling too good just yet.
Yeah, right now I'm just thinking, I've got options. I got Draw Power in my hand. I don't really need it right now, so I decide to do damage while stalling. I Lysander the Hoopa out. I think this was probably the best move I could have made here, because Phelan isn't going to be able to do anything with the Hoopa. He's going to have to waste energy to try to get it out of the active slot, and I just get to chip for free and basically get to take 2 prize cards if he can't get that out of active.
Yeah, my main method of moving Pokemon in and out of the active is with Floatstone, and again with Chaos Wheel preventing me from attaching tool cards. My only hope is to get the Hoopa out of the active with manual energy attachments, or with AZ, which, as you can see, I don't have in my hand, which is why I'm playing the N.
The N starts to hurt me a little bit here because I'm drawing less cards, but I was happy for it because I still didn't have a Double Dragon Energy, so I just looked at this as an opportunity to get a Double Dragon Energy or get into one. And you can see there's one in my hand.
Yeah, and with me playing N there, that just kind of puts me in an unfortunate position where I have to sacrifice another 2-prize Pokemon, allowing Josh a pretty easy pathway to win the game. Because after taking the KO on this Hoopa EX, he will be at 2 prize cards remaining, meaning that Lysander for the Shaman that I have in play is all that it's going to take for him to win the game.
Yep. So I make the choice to bring Salamence online over Giratina. I feel like at this point, setting up for a potential one-shot, I was doing math on the board, and Phelan would still have 3 EXs. So I was pretty confident about being able to get that Salamence out for a one-shot on the Shaman. That's what I kind of start setting up for. From this point onward, I have the Lysander in the discard. As you can see, my deck isn't very thick, so I'm pretty confident I can get into a VS Seeker here, and I know I have KO this turn. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get that VS Seeker, and I decide to grab a Sycamore because I'm greedy.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be made to just hold the hand and keep the VS Seeker for the next turn, but if you can establish an even more dominating position that you don't need the Lysander, that's not a bad play either.
Yeah, like I said, I was feeling pretty confident. I'm looking into options right now. There's another double dragon energy you can see I just grabbed, so I'm feeling really, really good right now.
Yeah, so at this stage of the game, I see Josh has taken 4 prizes. I've not really made a whole lot of headway on this. So my idea here is to go up with the Cobalion. I'm thinking on it, but that is the decision I ultimately decide to go with here, is to put up the Cobalion and try to skew the prize trade. Force Josh to take a couple extra knockouts. Nope, actually I went up with the Mega Audino. I guess I am not remembering correctly here.
I believe you AZ the Mega Audino.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So okay. So that's right. That was my thought process. It's like, yeah, I could go up with the Cobalion and try to stall the prize trade, but I have the AZ in hand, and I know that nothing Josh has can one-shot the Mega Audino. So my plan is to take some prize cards here, AZ the next turn, and then use the energy I picked up with AZ to attach to the Cobalion and go in with its Revenge Blast attack. Which actually wouldn't work. I know that's what I was thinking in my head at the time. I know that wouldn't work because the energy actually gets discarded when you use AZ, so that wouldn't have worked very well for me, but, we'll get there. So I Versus Seeker for the Hex Maniac, that way I can hit through the Giratina EX this turn. As y'all saw, the Absol came into play, allowing me to move three of Josh's damage counters around his board, which sets up the math for me to take the KO on this Giratina. So that's working out perfectly for me here. So we're going to see the Magical Symphony 110 to the active, thanks to Hex Maniac, setting up enough damage for me to take the KO, and then starting to pile damage onto the Salamence.
I put Salamence into active. I'm going pretty much straight for game here. I had the VS Seeker. I go for the Lysander. And like I said earlier, I was planning on doing it, and I just go ahead and set up to pull out the Shaman and take a Dragon Fang for game.
Yep, Dragon Fang doing 50 damage plus the base 10 for each EX that I have in play. That puts you at 160 damage there for a very clean and easy KO on the Shaman. Here I am explaining the play I was going for here, but unfortunately, one turn too late. Not enough gas in the tank.
Yeah, it just happens like that sometimes, Card games, sometimes you get the gas, sometimes you don't.
So we are currently 1-1 in the set. Pretty close games, all things considered. Pretty rough for me throughout the whole round. It's kind of funny watching in retrospect. In the moment, I felt like I was kind of mounting a comeback there, but watching it in retrospect, it's like, man, there's just really nothing you can do in that situation. It felt really bad.
Yeah, turn 2 Chaos Wheel against Mega Audino is very, very debilitating. That just really made it hard for you to get anything going.
Yeah, I can't get my Spirit Links, so you immediately just diminish the number of attackers I have. I can't retreat with Floatstone. I can't disrupt your pace with Parallel City. I can't attach the double colorless energies to attack faster. It's a very rough situation to be in. And of course, going for that greedy play, trying to attack with the Magirna in the early game certainly was not helping things.
Yeah.
So we're shuffling up for game 3 here. Since I lost the second game, I've opted to go first. That way I can try to get ahead of any potential Chaos Wheel shenanigans. And while we're sitting here between games, if y'all would are enjoying the content, definitely let us know in the comments section below. Of course, we do also have our podcast, the Damage Counter Podcast, available on all major streaming platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, we're there. If you're enjoying the content, definitely check out our podcast. That's kind of the bulk of our content right there. So definitely check us out there. Check us out on Twitter. Links to everything will be in the episode description below. As we get into this game 3, I'm starting with not one, but 2 Audino EX in hand, which is much better than the lone Magirna start I had in the second game. You are actually going to have a mulligan this time.
Mulligan, the first mulligan of our set. So, unfortunate, but it happens, It
does happen. I am enjoying, even though my hand is a little bit better than it has been the previous games, I'm still enjoying the ability to have an extra card this turn, just to dig that much deeper.
You don't realize how long shuffling takes until you're watching just someone shuffle a deck of cards.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, come on. You're like looking at your wristwatch, you're tapping.
I know. Well, I might be going a little overboard here, but I don't know about you or listeners, but every time I draw into a mulligan, I just feel the need to hard shuffle my deck.
Yeah, just get a few extra reps in there for sure.
Yeah. So, I actually start off pretty good here with the hand I draw. I'm going to have a Gardevoir EX in my hand and a Giratina, if I believe. I might be wrong here, actually. Actually, I think I start Xerneas Giratina. Or am I crazy?
Oh, we're going to find out here in a second.
We'll see.
An important thing to note is that you don't really see this a lot in Standard play today.
Xerneas.
But Josh actually put both his active and a bench Pokemon into play. And the reason that's important is that in the X and Y format, like we've said, you can play a supporter on the first turn of the game. So had he decided to not bench that Giratina, I could have played N this turn and, forced him to shuffle it back into the deck. So it's important to recognize that in these retro formats, that if something like N or Judge exist on formats where you can play a supporter on turn 1, you should probably bench the Pokemon if you think you're going to need it.
Yeah, of course. I'm feeling okay here going turn 2. Xerneas with Giratina on the bench feels really good, actually. I'm not very worried, even though Phelan has a really good start here.
Yeah, starting the Xerneas is definitely very good. Gives you the option to Geomancy to just thin energy out of the deck and get it all into play. I did have the Metal Energy in hand there, which, seemed like a slam dunk to just attach it. That way I'm good to go on the next turn if I find the double colorless. But that turn 2 Chaos Wheel scarred me last turn, so I wanted to make sure I found the double colorless first. And I thought if I discarded the Metal Energy, I at the very least could Mega Turbo it into play later. Perhaps an unnecessary precaution, but one that I definitely felt was necessary.
I think it definitely worked out in your favor, especially because you hit that double colorless energy right there.
Yeah, definitely worked out for me there, getting both the Spirit Link and the double colorless energy. So as long as I find the basic and the Mega Audino EX the next turn, I'm able to start running away with Magical Symphonies, which, as we saw from Game 1, can really, really put you in a bit of a bind. Looking over my hand, like I said, we're doing a lot better this go around. Like I said before, discarding Lysander and Hexmaniac off of Ultra Ball is actually really strong, allowing me to pick those up with Versus Seeker later in the game to help me get around the Giratina EX, either by bossing around it or by playing Hexmaniac to turn off its ability. So having both of those in the discard pile is very valuable for me as I grab a Shaman and prepare to draw a few more cards. Or rather, hold it in the hand, I mean.
So I draw here. Phelan's got a pretty solid start. I'm not looking too bad either. I go ahead and max Elixir, trying to get energy on that Giratina. You can see I hit that energy second card. I'm just looking to see what I got. Info's power, and it's a lot harder to get info in X and Y. There's nowhere near as many opportunities to be able to look at your whole deck.
Yeah, I think really the only search options that most decks play is Ultra Ball, and especially for our decks, right? Like, we're not playing any 90 or less HP Pokemon, right? So we don't have the luxury of running Level Ball. So anytime we want to search our deck, it's Ultra Ball or bust.
Yep. Let's see, I'm just looking here, I'm looking at options. I'll go ahead and Ultra Ball. I'm pretty sure I go for Shaman here. I just need more options.
Yeah, Ultra Balling the Switch and the Lysander, and again, much like my deck, having the Lysander in the discard is very strong for you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, discarding that Switch cost me the game later on. I could have won if I hadn't have done that. That's one of the couple misplays I made. Which, that's the one I regretted the most, like 2 turns later, though. Definitely. So I go for the Shaman. I'm just trying to draw cards. Like I said, I need more options. I don't feel like a turn 2 Chaos Wheel is possible. Turn 3, I'm feeling pretty good. I get a Dragon Energy on there. I kind of give up on Xerneas at this point, getting that Dragon Energy down, and I decide my best bet is to go all in on the Giratina. So I go ahead and in. I'm just trying to get...
Because of the max Elixir only accelerating to the bench, you already had the 1 energy, and then off of the Shaman, you didn't get another basic energy, right? So you either have the decision there to attach to the Giratina or end that energy away and hope you get into another basic energy. So it's kind of one of those 50-50s. You either take the safe play or you try to see if you can gun it.
Yeah. And
it looks like that worked out for you there, because it doesn't look like you have any basic fairy energy in the hand after the end even.
Yeah, it did work out for me for the most part. I just go ahead and get Gardevoir down and Spirit Link, trying to set up options. Salamance's down. I'm not worried about Parallel City. If Phelan Parallel Cities, I'm I'll just discard the Shaman. I really don't want it on my bench anyway, with M Audino about to be online.
Yeah, because, like we said before, the Magical Symphony is a perfect 110 damage, so it does KO without need for any kind of assistance. So my hand is not great in terms of draw, but thankfully Hoopa EX comes in to save the day with its Scoundrel Ring ability. I hesitate benching it a little bit because, again, I see the Salamence, and I know that if I bench too many EX Pokemon, I end up putting myself at risk of getting one-shot. But I've got a plan for that, so I grab Shaman and 2 M Audino EX. Plan on evolving both of my Audino this turn to keep those cards out of my hand and to maximize the amount of cards I can draw off of Shaman's ability. So we're going to see that happen here real quick. We see Evolution. Don't think I have any other cards to play. I think I'm just thinking it over here real quick. Oh, never mind, that is an Ultra Ball in my hand that I'm eyeing up. I do ultimately decide to do that, getting rid of Audino and a Spirit Link. You typically don't need more than 2 Audino per game. You could set up a third one, and in certain matchups that's not ever going to be a terrible idea. But ultimately I decide, you know what, I play a 4-3 line. I think I can get away with just having the 2, and I could set up the third one later if need be. So go ahead and just pitch those, get the Cobalion. That way I have that option to offset the prize trade later in the game. And then I drop the Shaman and do set up for a smooth 5 cards. And take a look at what I have here. Was hoping to pull the Parallel City off of that. That way I could limit my own bench to 3 and drop my EX count down to a point where Salamence wouldn't be a huge threat. I do get the Startling Megaphone to get rid of Josh's Spirit Link off of the Gardevoir, so, you know, potentially making that Mega Evolution a little bit more awkward for him. Eyeing up my discard pile, going for the VS Seeker. I believe it is an N that we're grabbing here. No, Sycamore. We're going to draw some cards. Again, like I said, I was really looking for the Parallel City, so I decided to gun it and go for it. Going to be drawing another 7 cards here. And, you know, when you draw that many cards a turn, hopefully you find what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, which you do hit it here. You have City in hand.
Yep, so I decide to put the bench... the bench limit on my end. I accidentally discarded too many bench Pokemon there. So, you know, that puts me down to 3 bench Pokemon, which means I only discard 1. Decide to get rid of the Shaman, as it has the lowest HP. It's the easiest to KO. So putting me down to 3 EX Pokemon in play, meaning that Salamence can only deal 160 damage, which is going to keep not only my Mega Audinose around, but it is actually going to allow Hoop to survive an attack from Salamence as well.
Yep, so at this point I'm actually pretty scared. I'm not gonna lie, this turn really tips the game into Phelan's favor. He's pretty set up, he's got a lot of options on the board. I'm not like insanely worried at the moment, but my confidence is definitely a little shaken. So you can see I luckily get Fairy Garden off of that trainer mail, giving me the option to try to get that Giratina out this turn. I forgot that you need to attach an energy to get this out, so it turns a little awkward for me here, as we'll see, but I managed to work it out.
Yeah, as long as you can get there in the end.
Yeah, so I think I pretty much am just thinking about what I need to do right now. I need to make sure that Giratina is able to get an energy on it. I go ahead and break Xerneas, because why not? Bend my hand a little bit. Go ahead and play Fairy Garden.
Yeah, because I see the Fairy Garden come into play.
Yeah. Here's my little mistake.
Yeah, so the thing with Fairy Garden is that it says that any Pokemon with Fairy Energy attached to it has a retreat cost of 0. So a minor little misplay there, but we're able to...
yeah, we fix it pretty fast.
Yeah, that's correctable board state for sure.
At this point, I need one more option than I thought I did, so I go ahead and in for 6 cards, because I just need cards. I'm really trying to get an energy in hand and another max elixir, so I could get that Xerneas out of there while still getting Chaos Wheel online this turn. It's a lot to ask, but it works out for me.
Yeah, definitely not impossible with insane cards like Max Elixir, that's for sure.
So you can see there's the energy in hand, and there's the Max Elixir. I'm pretty happy to go ahead and use that Max Elixir immediately. Draw the Fairy Energy first turn. That's great. I'm starting to get a little more confidence again here. Go ahead and plop that down.
Yeah, slam that Fairy Energy onto the Giratina.
Feeling pretty good now. I'm like, alright. I'm going to go ahead and look at my options one more time. I don't have too much I really want to do this turn, so I go ahead and attach and get that retreat to get Giratina in the active. 2 turns later than I really would have liked to, but I'm trying to make do. Trader's Mail, just seeing what I can get. I think I whiff this. Or no, I get another Spirit Link, I believe.
Yeah, because I did...
No, I go for the VS Seeker, that's right.
I mean, it's a powerful card. Never
yeah,
had an option to have it.
I've got supporters in my discard. I've got a couple of options in there. So, good grab. And then I just Chaos Wheel.
Yeah, so at this point, you're just kind of hoping to wall out with the Giratina, as nothing is really in a position to start taking any major KOs or attacks. Salamence is sitting there with no energy, and while Xerneas is halfway there to its life stream attack, there is not a huge abundance of fairy energy on the board for it to deal a ton of damage, so walling behind the Giratina, trying to slow me down and disrupt me with Chaos Wheel and Renegade Pulse is, kind of seeming like your best bet here.
Yep, I just have to hope that Phelan can't get into VS Seekers to drop Hex Maniacs on me, and that's my best bet right now, is just try to stall it out a little bit.
Yeah, so off the Trainer's Mail, I actually did find Lysander and Hex Maniac. So I did have the VS Seeker in hand and was going to play one of those that turn anyway, but the Trainer's Mail giving me both of them. I was like, okay, I've got the Lysander in hand. Let me just get the Hex Maniac. That way I can literally do whatever I want. So I'll play the rest, I'll play the other cards in my hand, think about what I want to do. So we go for the basic Metal Energy onto the Cobalion to set up its Revenge Blast attack later after Josh has taken some prizes. I opt to go with the Hex Maniac. That way I can hit the Giratina through Renegade Pulse. So that is going to be 110 damage to the active. Currently deliberating on where to put the bench damage. Opted to go for the Xerneas break there, getting the KO. In hindsight, I don't think I necessarily agree with that play, because I think that really puts my prize trade in a really awkward spot. But my hand was not looking too great, considering that my Versus Seekers now have to be used for Lysander or Hex Maniac. My draw options are looking a little slim, so I think my mindset there was to take the prize card to see if I could, get something that would give me that extra option in the next turn, but ultimately all that's going to do is skew my prize trade.
Yep. So I VS Seekered for a Lysander from my discard to pull out the Mega Audino with no energy. I'm hoping to wall and just stack up some damage on his most important Pokemon. That's just my plan right now. I didn't know that you had the AZ though, sadly.
Yeah, and this is a turn I kind of spend a lot of time thinking about this, because yeah, you're right. I have no way to get this Mega Audino out of the active unless I play AZ, and that is what I eventually end up doing anyway. I go Versus Seeker for AZ. Ultimately, I think this is a misplay. Actually, I think at this stage of the game, I should have just let you take the KO, because you're at 6 prizes, right? You take this KO, you go down to 4. That just makes Cobalion stronger for the later half of the game. But, I get the idea, oh, okay, well, I can save the Audino, stay ahead on the prizes, not worry about giving it up, or, this, that, the other. But what I failed to recognize is that by playing AZ this turn, I can't hit the Giratina. So that's what I ultimately realized after making that misplay. So here we go. Slam the Versus Seeker, go to the bottom of the discard pile, find the AZ, and we do end up playing him, slam it down, pick up the Audino, deny prizes, and now at this point I'm like, oh yeah, how do I attack the Giratina? Well, here we go.
Yep, I'm really scared of his active Pokemon. It can completely wall me out pretty much, and the only way I can really get around it is Lysandering it away. Yeah. So at this point, I'm just thinking, what do I need to do?
Yeah, Cobalion is a deceptively powerful card for 1 Metal Energy, has the attack Quick Guard. It says during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes no damage from your opponent's basic Pokemon, which, as we've seen, Josh has been leaning very heavily into the Dragon strategy for obvious reasons. It's been working out very well. So trying to wall out a turn to use Quick Guard and just kind of slow the game down a little bit, try to prevent him from gaining too much ground, and set up for Revenge Blast later in the game. Again, that's where I think this is a misplay, because Revenge Blast does 30 damage plus 30 for each prize card my opponent has taken, and as you can see, Josh has not taken any prize cards, so while Quick Guard is kind of slowing the pace of the game down here, I don't think it's really to my benefit, because I'm not able to respond with anything after the fact. And you can't use Quick Guard 2 turns in a row, right? So I've really put myself in a rough position here.
Yeah, I'm in a rough spot on my end too. I sycamored my hand away a little bit ago there, and I'm just looking for options. I drew another Max Elixir, so that's perfect. Get Salamence online, that's really good for me. Like Phelan said, he's trying to limit his bench, but that's still 160 damage that I get to swing with, which is a lot in this format, so I'm pretty happy getting that online. I'm trying to figure out how to get around this situation. I don't really have an option this turn to do it, especially since I already sycamored, so I just kinda have to accept that I'm going to be waiting a turn, and I think for this point I just Chaos Wheel to make sure your options are as limited as possible and move on.
Yeah, it'll prevent damage done to Cobalion, but the effect of Chaos Wheel does still go through, meaning that I won't be able to play Stadium, Special Energy, or Tool cards. And the important thing there is Tool cards, right? Because without Floatstone, I can't really get Cobalion out of the active without sacrificing some energy. And if I remember correctly, I think the energy I end up attaching to Cobalion is the last energy, the last basic energy in my deck. So if I retreat out of Cobalion, that basically means I have to ride the rest of the game on that Mega Audino damaged in the back. So I'm a little wary of it. Of course, Josh is still going off here. One of those classic X and Y turns where you're just going with massive combos.
At this point, I'm trying to draw cards, get options for my next turn, because I pretty much I feel like I need to have a Lysander in my hand at this point. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, but I just want as many options as I can, so I was just trying to draw cards.
Yeah, so it goes into the Chaos Wheel, locking me out of Tool, Stadiums, and Special Energies. I do end up top decking the last basic energy in my deck, which is pretty lucky. So at this point, I realize the misplay that I've made, and I'm trying to find ways to make the most of the situation. So at this point, I realize, hey, I can't KO with Revenge Blast, but if I manage to find the Cursed Eyes Absol left in my deck, I can move 3 damage counters from the Gardevoir to the Giratina and get the KO with Revenge Blast that way. So I'm counting my deck. I've got 12 cards left in the deck. I'm really thinking about researching here, but I'm not confident that I can win the game in 5 turns. Or at least navigate the game in a way that 5 cards left in deck is going to allow me. So ultimately, I decide to go for the N here. Was kind of hanging on to that, was really hoping to drop that after Josh had taken some KOs, but the thing about denying your opponent prize cards means you don't really ever get to that position.
Yeah. Which, I was pretty happy with that, because I don't think I really had anything that I needed or wanted. So, I was fine drawing 6 new cards.
And so it's going to be the end of 6 for both of us. Didn't find the Absol, but I did find the Ultra Ball.
Yeah.
So I was able to Ultra Ball for it. Not ideal necessarily, because I do really like the cards in my hand, but I feel like I need to start taking some prizes.
I hope you didn't end into 6 there, because you had the Xerneas knockout already.
It might have been 5. Because I had the bottom card, because I do the 3 and then the 3 or the 3 and then 2. I think I had the bottom cards tapered off there. If I remember correctly, I think I actually did go into
Yeah, you
5.
do 5. Yeah. I see you do 5, because you draw 5 and drop 3 on the Ultra Ball, and you got 2 Sid right there.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you do that stuff right when you're playing these formats. So we do play the Ultra Ball, we do get the Absol into play, moving 3 damage counters off of the Gardevoir into the Giratina, and then going Revenge Blast for the KO. Kind of an unorthodox way to get the KO. Revenge Blast, you would typically want to do more damage than just 30, but I mean, if it gets you there, I guess.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty safe there. That the Absol into the KO actually kind of rocked me, because I thought that was a little too out of the way for Phelan to get off, but he did. So I've got to try to make do here. It's not too bad.
Yeah, on my side of things, I am genuinely terrified. I've got a one prizer that is able to be knocked out very easily. And my only other attacker in play is a two prizer that is basically going to get KO'd by any attack Josh performs on his side of the field. So I'm not feeling too good, especially with Salamence in the active. I'm looking at my hand and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to have to survive a barrage of attacks from Salamence, and I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it, especially since I put myself at an awkward prize trade by taking the KO on the Xerneas. You know, I'm not at a position where taking a KO wins me the game. I'm at a position where taking a KO gets me closer to winning the game, and it's not a good position for me to be in. So I'm sweating a lot on my side.
So a little bit ago there, I got a Lysander. At this point, I'm ready to start taking KOs, is what I'm thinking, but I'm really debating on what to do about Phelan's active. If I leave that into the game, it becomes more of an annoyance / threat the longer the game goes on and the better I start doing. So I really think about Lysandering out that Mega Audino or even the Hoopa to try to stall, but I'm really not sure at this point. I'm really thinking here because I feel like if I don't get rid of this active, it's going to come back to bite me later, which it might have been arguably the wrong choice to make, but I do end up deciding just to knock it, which skews my prize trade also.
Yeah, and which, you know, that was what I was hoping for the Cobalion, so that ended up working out, but you are right, leaving the Cobalion does leave that as a nuisance for later in the game, because even if Revenge Blast isn't going to be doing enough damage to take the KO, it can set up for a Magical Symphony later, and I also have the ability to use Quick Guard again, allowing me to stall an extra turn to get the other Audino set up. So I do think actually going for the Cobalion is actually the right play here.
And right here is actually where I throw the game, attaching a 4th Fairy Energy to Salamence just to have that other attack online, just in case I need it. I really should have put that energy on the Gardevoir. That comes back to bite me.
Yeah, so he takes the KO on Cobalion. Ended up top decking the Versus Seeker there, which I don't hate necessarily, but again, I'm sitting here in a position where I desperately need to get a second attacker set up. Otherwise, I'm in a very bad spot. So I'm just looking through my resources, realizing that I need to find what I believe is my last Spirit Link. Because I'm pretty sure I discarded one off of an Ultra Ball, and another one got discarded off of the AZ I played earlier. Meaning there is one left. So just doing some quick resource checking and trying to find out the best way to get into that card. That way I can evolve without having to end my turn. I'm forced to end in this situation again because my deck is very, very slim. I had 11 cards in deck there before playing N, but also my last Mega Audino was in my hand, so I couldn't afford to discard it. So end to 3 and giving my opponent 5 does not feel good, but it was the best option I had. Unfortunately, didn't get into it there, so just kind of have to make do with what I got. Basically on top deck city. The double colorless energy is nice, so that puts me at 1 energy attachment away from getting into Magical Symphony, but other than that, I'm still missing quite a few pieces. And the last card in hand is the Parallel City. Decide to throw that in the direction to force Josh to have 3 bench Pokemon, meaning that he is unable to basically set up anything else at this point unless he bumps the stadium. So at this point, I'm basically forcing us into a position where we're both forced to deal with the Pokemon we have on board, and nothing else. So Magical Symphony is going to come out, 110 on the Salamence, building damage back up on the Gardevoir, and just hoping for the best at this point.
Yep, I know I have KO this turn, so I need to just try to do whatever I can to get options in my hand. Is my second Giratina is actually prized, so I'm very worried about that because I really couldn't use that. It actually causes me to not play quite as well as I should here because I'm very scared at this point. I feel like Phelan pretty much has game in bag, and I'm gonna need to pull something off kind of crazy to get anything going. Especially with that parallel city down, I have to find my way into getting another Fairy Garden back on the bench. So I'm really just considering what to do here. I have a couple different things I can do. I just don't quite know which one is the best option at this point. Both of our decks are getting pretty thin. We've used a lot of our options. I just ended up deciding to take the KO because I was so unsure of what to do. I didn't feel like anything was really helpful in that spot, which I do draw into the Giratina EX from those prize cards.
Yeah, and I got insanely lucky. I ended that turn with a 0-card hand and ended up top decking a Professor Sycamore, which finds me just about everything I needed. The Spirit Link, the extra energy, and the Mega Audino, so I am able to keep up my string of attacks. And now, all of my worries are basically aside. I think I've got like 3 cards left in deck, but at this point, I'm confident that I can take enough KOs to win the game in a reasonable amount of time. So I take 2 prize cards. I got 1 prize card left, and feeling pretty good. You can't see it, but I believe in my hand is a bunch of Versus Seekers, basically. So I've got game in hand for the next turn. It's just a matter of, surviving Josh's turn to get there.
Yeah, I put Gardevoir in the active here because I either get a Fairy Garden or it's game anyway. As you can see, there's the Fairy Garden in my hand off the Max Elixir. I am a little upset when I saw that. And I'm also trying to get this Giratina online as fast as possible, which luckily I had a Double Dragon Energy in hand, so I attached that, put a Fairy Energy on it, and it was about at this point that I realized I do not have any more energy in my deck. So, I'm gonna be honest, the game was pretty much lost from this point on. I start working just to try to stall, because we're both very low on cards, and who knows what'll happen. I try to get rid of Phelan's options here by hitting him down to 1 card.
Yeah, which does end up being, it does end up putting a hamper on me, going down to 1 card. It's very rare that you find, any outs to that.
Yep, so I did get the Fairy Garden. I got that inactive. Giratina is out. This is about the best that I could do in this situation, and I just have to hope to stall as long as I can.
Yep, and that does work out for you here. My hand after end of 1 in a top deck is just Ultra Ball and Float Stone. What I can do, can't really do anything with either of those cards, so I just pass the turn back to you.
Yep, I Lysander out the Absol, because like I said, at this point I'm going for full stall. It's my only option. Unluckily, Phelan had the other Float Stone in his hand, like he just said.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm like, well, I still can't attack this turn, and if he gets energy, I don't want that damage to be built up on the Audino. So I know a Chaos Wheel won't KO the Hoopa, so I leave him up there just in case Josh gets the energy. He's going to go for a draw pass, and then I think it's at this stage of the game. Yep, I top deck the Versus Seeker. I'm looking at my deck for the Lysander for game. Just making sure I have it in there because I hadn't played too many of them. Yep, so Versus Seeker. Gonna grab the Lysander, grab the Shaman, move back into Audino. Magical Symphony, 110 damage for the game.
Yep. It was a very good match. As you can see there, 2 of my energy were in my prizes. It's my fault for not keeping better count when I had my chances when I was Ultra Balling through my deck, but I knew how many energy I played in this deck, and for a while there, I thought I had more until I played with that very last Ultra Ball, and I'm like, oh, I don't even have it in my deck. It's unfortunate. It happens sometimes. That's why it's very important to keep as much info as you can about your deck. And decision making is very important. I throw away my Super Rod and my Switch in this match without using them. I really regretted that later on.
Yeah, it's, we talk about it a lot, but it's just those decisions that you make in the heat of the moment where it's just like, it may not be obvious the value those cards will have in the late game. Sometimes, you don't even need options like that, but every now and again, those kinds of things will come back to bite you.
Yeah, it happens. These were definitely some really good matches, though. We both had a lot of fun, and I told Phelan that I was going to be petty and include this. We did play 4 matches, like we said. I won our test game or our warm-up game, whatever you want to call it. So in my head, we're 2-2 and need to play one more match at some point.
Yes, that is true. At some point, we'll need to do this again, so... of course we're going to do it again. We had a blast, and we hope y'all enjoyed watching this series as we explore the X and Y format. We plan to bring y'all more tabletop games, because it's a lot more fun than PTCGO, let's be honest. So we plan to do that for more retro formats in the past, maybe a little bit more X and Y, and of course, as always, we'll get y'all some standard gameplay as well. But with that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. Again, check out the description for links to our podcast, links to our Twitter, where you can keep up with all things Damage Counter, and we hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy.